Today on Cloud Slaw, we're going to learn the best way to get started with AWS Security Hub. AWS Security Hub is Amazon's native security hub. I mean, it's all right there in the name. But Security Hub can be a bit of a tricky beast to wrap your head around at the start because it combines a few different capabilities, and you might not want or need all of them. Some of these are awesome, some of them are okay, and some are really good at increasing your AWS invoice by the end of the second month. Now, personally, I have a particular way that I recommend getting started with Security Hub. And I'm going to show you that, and then you can figure out what other capabilities you want to turn on over time, and we're going to play with those in some of these labs down the road. For simplification purposes, I like to think of Security Hub as providing three primary capabilities. Let me go ahead and pull out my whiteboard to go over those. So the first thing that Security Hub does, and the one that I think is most valuable for what we're doing early in these labs, is that Security will collect events and results from nearly any other AWS security service all in one place. Now, if you think about how we configured guard duty, we had two accounts where we had our management account and then we had our delegated admin account. So let's just go with our delegated admin account. And within that account, we had two regions. It was East 1 and West 2 were the two regions that we were using. And we had to log in, and all of these were just keeping the events only in that region. So if you follow the flow, it's not that those events are going back centrally, it's that those events are only in the region where they're occupied. Also, Amazon's got lots of other security tools that are available, things like Access Analyzer and Inspector. But here's what's really cool about Security Hub. All of those tools are going to save only in their individual regions. That's where they generate their events. That's where you have to manually configure them. Well, the way Security Hub works, and it's right there in the name, it serves as a central hub. And so when you've got Security Hub set up, so we're going to do that in our security audit account, it doesn't matter what regions and what accounts I set my other tools up in. So let's say these blue boxes are Amazon Inspector, and in this case, we're going to have this be across two regions, and in this case, this is going to be account 1, and this is going to be account 2, this is going to be account 3, but in two regions. All of the events and the findings generated by those other security tools can be collected in Security Hub. And unlike any other security service, Security Hub can give you one single fire hose in one account and one region. So it aggregates all the findings from all of the other pieces, or from all of the other security tools. And this is really wonderful because the nice thing about it is, even though you can use infrastructure as code and you can configure all of these other accounts using IAC to send where you want to have things sent, when you're using Security Hub, if anybody turns any of those things on, it will automatically gather those findings, centralize them in Security Hub into that one account and that one region. So it really is very powerful for centralizing all of those security, all of your results from all of these security tools. Now, one of the things that it uses, let me scroll down a bit to do this, and the way that that works is Security Hub uses something known as the Amazon Security Findings format, or the AWS Security Findings format. And ASFF is a standard schema that all of the other tools can feed into. What's cool is not only does it handle the Amazon tools like Inspector and Access Analyzer and Guard Duty, it'll actually support third-party tools. So these are third-party vendors, I'll use mine, Firemon Cloud Defense, for example, or any of those tools are able to output in that standard format. So Security doesn't just collect all those security results from the Amazon tools, it collects them from all the other tools. Now, you may or may not want that. Let's be realistic. Third-party vendors may be better at their own user experience and their analytics and their capabilities, But still, it's nice to know that if you want to feed those into Security Hub, you can feed those into Security Hub and you can kind of get that one fire hose. Now, that's just one of, or two of the three things that are important about Security Hub. And so, one that we talked about is the fact that Security Hub can be that central feed. And I don't know how to spell feed. Apparently, it has an E in it. I don't know. These things are happening. The next thing that Security Hub can do is something known as CSPM, and that stands for Cloud Security Posture. I can't believe I'm doing this. Management. And yeah, you get the hint. We don't need to do that. Now, what CSPM tools do, and there's third-party tools, and Amazon has their own thing. And in Amazon, this is called, their capabilities are what's known as security standards. And those security standards are basically a series of checks. And so the way that this works is that it will look for misconfigurations. An example would be a public S3 bucket. That could be a security exposure, or giving administrative IAM permissions to a Lambda function. That's the kind of thing that an attacker could use. We call all of those things security misconfigurations, and it's all part of your security posture. And Security Hub has the capabilities to do CSPM. So think of CSPM as a vulnerability scanner for your cloud. Now, the only issue with CSPM with the security standards capability in Security Hub is that it uses AWS config. And config can be one of the most expensive services that you can use in AWS. So it can get pretty expensive if you turn that on and if you're not careful about it. That's fine, because what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to set up Security Hub without the security standards. And we're going to enable the third key things, which is Security Hub is orgs capable. Now, I kind of hinted at that before with the other diagram, but what I mean by that is it can be that central feed, but you can set it up to be that central feed across your entire organization by default. And so that means no matter what else is turned on or where it's turned on, you're going to get that information. Now, again, remember, it's going to normalize those results into that Amazon Security Findings format. So sometimes you can lose a little bit of the information you might get from the native tool. We're going to learn some of those nuances as we go along. It doesn't really matter for what we're doing today. I want to emphasize why we're playing with Security Hub and why we're using it at this point in time in the labs, and why I recommend configuring it this way, even the way we're going to do in the lab today, even when I'm working very large organizations. CloudTrail is the main log we want for security, but it isn't the only one. We started there, and it's the most important one we have for seeing what's going on. And the next most important one is GuardDuty, and those are really kind of the partners that I like to have on in all of my environments. GuardDuty tells us most of what's going on in our account because we can watch all those API calls. And GuardDuty gives us that threat detection capability to get potential malicious activity like cryptocurrency mining and brute force attacks and other security badness. And Amazon has these other handful of important security tools. Inspector's a vulnerability scanner for your virtual machines, your instances, and your containers. Access Analyzer will help you find where you've made IAM connections across your organization into other accounts. And all of these tools are run by different teams, mostly in Amazon. All of them have their own user interface and APIs and findings, and nearly all of them have to be turned on, as we mentioned before, in every region, in every account individually. Well, Security Hub isn't going to help you get all of those configured the way that you want them to be configured. You can do that manually or using infrastructure as code, but then it becomes really painful to gather up all the telemetry, to gather up all the information generated by those tools. That's where Security Hub is really important, because of that automatic importing of the findings from all of those tools, putting them across all regions, all tools, all accounts into one place. I like that for simplicity, because even if some random admin turns on some random security tool we don't use as part of our standard deployment, we're going to be able to gather that information. So again, doesn't mean you don't have to manage all the settings of those tools across all of those accounts in all of those regions. But I do like to have that central collection and that central feed, especially those of you in larger enterprise environments, because you're going to send that off someplace else probably. You're going to send that off to a security information and event management tool or some security operations center tool. And you don't really have to do anything custom for that. Once you set up Security Hub, you get all of that information from that one feed. Even if, I don't know, somebody turns on the Cloud Mutant Attack Detection tool, you're going to get all of those results in the same place. So it's pretty cool. It's not always how you're going to want to handle things, but you can always ignore the ones that you don't need when you want to use your native tools. And again, just that last warning, Security Hub is not free. And the way we're going to deploy it is the most cost-effective way because we're not going to turn on the security standards. We are not going to turn on that CSPM, that Cloud Security Posture Management capability, which is that vulnerability scanner for the misconfigurations. We're only going to deploy it as a tool to aggregate the feed of all the security results from all the other tools. Yes, we are going to use the security standards in future labs. We don't even have anything really worth scanning right now, so there's no reason to incur that cost. And when we do turn it on, we're only going to turn it on for a week or two at a time, so you get to see the results without increasing your bill. All right, with that, we're going to go into the lab itself. Today, we are going to set up Security Hub. We're going to use delegated administration into our security audit account again, and we're going to configure it for the entire organization. As with all of our labs these days, we start in the Access portal, and because we're turning on Security Hub at the organization's level, we need to go into our management account to start. Now, before you do that, we want the account ID of your security audit account. So, oops, let me see if I always mess that one up, because we will set this up and we need to have that for delegated administration. Okay, so I have that ID copied onto my clipboard. Now I'm going to go into my management account with my admin access. Within here, we're going to go to Security Hub and Security Hub right there. And I want to double check my region. This is the region where I want to set things up for my delegated admin and everything, US West 2 organization. All right, we're going to go to Security Hub. And we are not going to enable AWS config. This is really, really important. We are going to skip that, and we're going to not use config because we don't want the security standards. The next thing I do is I want to uncheck the security standards. These are the things that are going to cost me the most money. This is where kind of the big meat of Security Hub is. And we do want to enable integrations, but first let's just go to delegated admin. And I had an extra space at the end once I delete that. And that is my security audit account. I'm going to just double check. Yep, 350. Yep, 350. Now you all know, and we'll delegate. Okay, so I've now delegated, and now I'm going to go ahead and also enable, because I can do that at this point. And technically, I could do all the rest of the configuration right here. But what I want to do is I'm going to switch down, and we're going to switch into that other account. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to sign out. Close that, and I'm going to go into my security audit account. We need either administrator or full admin. Both of those will work. Let's use security full admin today, as if I'm the security leader and not the admin of the entire organization. And I'm in Oregon still. I go to Security Hub. And you can see that Security Hub is already set up. Now this is important. Security score can't be calculated. And I want to check a couple of things and just review. Now, if I was to go into the security standards section, these are the ones that they have that are available. There are security best practices, foundations, benchmarks, 853 Revi. We're not going to use any of these. What I want to do is see, you'll notice that it says that it is turned on. I want to disable it. Remember, even though I did the checkboxes before, it basically went ahead and enabled those anyway. And we're going to disable it. Because, again, I am just trying to save money at this point in time, and we will get to these security standards on another day. And we're also going to compare that to third-party tools. Now, we want to configure Security Hub across multiple regions and accounts. Oops. And that's what this warning up here at the top is. So we're going to go to our configuration. And we want to switch to enable central configuration. So this is going to centralize all the in a home region, which we're going to set. We can do all of our policies in one place, and we can manage everything in one place. So we're going to say link all available regions and link future regions. So this is going to lock all of it in automatically. And our home region is going to be this one, which is US West 2, Oregon. And it's going to kind of just update everything. We're going to confirm and continue. So the region settings were successfully updated. We're going to wait until the little spinny stops here. There we go. So now the configuration type is use the AWS recommended or custom, or the I'm not ready to configure yet. So you'll notice that if I use the Amazon recommended, it's going to turn on a bunch of stuff that I do not at this time turned on. If I click customized, then it's going to go with the custom policy. So we don't want any security standards. So let's turn that off. And so now we're going to have no standards enabled. And we don't need to worry about config because we're not going to use it. I want all accounts in my organization, not just some of the accounts. So this policy is going to apply everywhere. You can even exclude OUs and accounts, but we want everything. And then we're going to just leave the name configuration policy 1. We're not going to use any tags. So let's click next. So our delegated admin account is our current account. The central security view, home region, US West 2, all regions that are existing, all 28, and then all new regions. We don't have activity in those, so we're not going to get billed. If I did turn on the security standards, though, you could see how that could potentially increase cost quickly. And then the policy, we have a Security Hub policy, 0 of 7 enabled. So this is an important one. We do not want to do the standards at this point in time. And then 0 controls disabled. That's a way of just turning things off you don't care about. And this is going to override everything with this policy. You'll notice there's a little bit of redundancy. Some of that's because they've changed the user interface a lot and I don't remember everything, but also because I'm just being very cautious to make sure that we control our potential bill. And if I go to the organization, you can see that everything is all set up. Everything is pending to pull the results from those other accounts. If you ever want to check your billing, you can actually go ahead and look at usage here. It's going to show you the checks and everything. Our pricing should be generally very low because of our only using it to consolidate the findings. So, and this is where we need to double check something. The consolidated control findings we're not going to use now. That's part of that CSPM, that Cloud Security Posture Management Scanning capabilities, which is going to consolidate anyway, we're not going to get into it. It's not something that is relevant for today. Now, there's all sorts of other stuff you can do. You can even click on insights, and this is going to give you all the dashboards and everything. None of this is going to really be giving us very much because we are not utilizing any of those capabilities. But the one I do want you to peek at is the integrations. And you'll notice that these are all the AWS security tools. So a lot of the built-in ones. You've got config and chatbot, detective, firewall manager, guard duty. And you'll see that some of these have buttons, stop accepting findings, stop accepting findings, because those are turned on automatically for us. So as we turn some of these things on, it's going to be accepting the findings. And this is exactly what we want to see, is we're getting the results from all the built-in Amazon security tools. Now, some of them you might need to turn on. We're not using IoT Device Defender or any of those capabilities. We're not doing Security Lake. So there's a ton. This is just all the Amazon tools. And then you get into the various third-party tools down here. You can scroll down, see if any of your favorite vendors are on that list. You never know what they're going to send until you check with them. All right, let's go back up into our summary. And we see we have none of our security standards. Good. And we're not going to really see anything else because this is all about setting up that centralized security feed for us. Now, this is just laying the groundwork for us to be able to pull that feed and do something with it. And that's what we're going to do in our next lab. And we're going to be able to pull that feed and we're going to tie it to sending security alerts out. We're going to be very noisy at the start. Shouldn't be too bad because we have most of the stuff turned off that Security Hub would send us anyway. And then in future labs, we're going to learn about how to better manage those. But that's it for today. What we've done is we have enabled Security Hub. We have turned off all the security standards because that's what uses config and that's what's going to increase our bill. And we have configured it to serve as a central feed for all of Amazon's security tools across all accounts and all regions in our organization. That's it. Have a great week.